that feeling when you toss something in the trash? It kind of feels like it just disappears. Poof, out of sight, out of mind, right? But it doesn't actually vanish. It starts a journey. And for a lot of our stuff, that journey ends in a landfill. And these places, well, they're way more complex and critical to our modern world than most of us ever realize. And I'm not being dramatic when I say journey. It literally ends up in mountains of trash. Just look at this. It's massive. It really makes you wonder, how on earth do we manage all of this? And maybe more importantly, what happens when we don't? So let's dig in and find out what's really going on inside these trash mountains. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with just how big our global trash problem is. Then we'll get into what a real landfill is, because it's definitely not just a dump. We'll look at the anatomy, the stuff that comes out of it, both good and bad. We'll see a tale of two very different dump sites. And then we'll look to the future, a future with a whole lot less waste. Okay, let's kick things off with the scale of our waste problem. And I'm not kidding. To really get why all this matters, you have to see the numbers. They're pretty mind-boggling. Just take a look at this chart. Back in 2020, we as a planet generated over 2 billion tons of what's called municipal solid waste. That's just a fancy term for all the everyday stuff we throw out from our homes and offices. But look where we're headed. If we don't change course, we're on track for nearly 4 billion tons by 2050. That's a massive jump, an almost 80% increase in just 3 decades. That's wild. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just about the total amount of waste. When you break it down per person, you see a really clear pattern. Developed nations, like here in North America, create way more trash per individual. It's a direct reflection of our consumption habits, plain and simple. I mean, just think about your own trash can for a second. How much of that stuff was truly necessary? And this is what happens when all that waste isn't managed correctly. This isn't just some ugly picture. These uncontrolled dump sites are an absolute disaster. They're breeding grounds for disease, they leak toxic chemicals into the water supply, and they completely wreck local ecosystems. This is the real, tangible impact of our garbage. And listen, this isn't just an environmental issue. Not dealing with this problem has a massive price tag. We're talking over $600 billion a year by 2050. That's the cost of inaction, from health problems to cleanup to lost resources. To put that in perspective, that's bigger than the entire economy of some countries. It's a huge economic failure. So this brings up a really important point. That open dump we just saw, that is not a modern landfill. There's a world of difference, and that difference is all about science and engineering. It's the key to making sure we don't end up with those horrible outcomes and massive costs. Let's put them side by side. Open dumping is basically just dumping. You throw trash in a pile, there's no soil cover, so pollution is a huge risk, not to mention all the pests and diseases. A sanitary landfill, though, that's a whole different beast. It's an engineered facility designed from the ground up to keep the environment safe and control all those nasty problems. So what exactly is a sanitary landfill? Well, it's all about the process. Waste is spread in thin layers, it's compacted down to save space, and, this is the key part, it's covered with a layer of soil at the end of every single day. Why? Well, it cuts down on odors, keeps pests away, and stops trash from blowing all over the place. It's a simple idea, but it makes a massive difference. Okay, so how do these engineered systems actually work? Let's take a look under the hood at the anatomy of a modern landfill. The best way to think about it is like a giant sealed container, a system built in layers to keep everything locked away from the outside world. First off, a landfill isn't just one giant hole in the ground. It's built in stages, using these discrete sections called cells. They fill one cell, compact it, cover it up, and then move on to the next one. This cell-by-cell approach is what makes an operation of this size manageable, and more importantly, safe. And inside each of these cells, you've got these crucial protective systems. You can kind of think of it like a high-tech lasagna. At the very bottom, there's a super tough, waterproof liner system to make sure nothing leaks into the groundwater. Then you've got a whole network of pipes to collect any toxic liquid. We'll talk more about that in a second. On top of that, more pipes to capture harmful gases. And then finally, when the cell is full, they put on a final cap to seal everything in. Every single layer has a job. All right, I mentioned leachate and gas. Let's dive a little deeper into those, because controlling these two byproducts is pretty much the main job of all this engineering. So first up, leachate. The simplest way to describe it? It's basically toxic garbage juice. Yeah. When rainwater seeps through all that trash, it dissolves all sorts of nasty stuff. Chemicals, heavy metals, you name it. And if that liquid gets out, it's a huge threat to our groundwater. So collecting it and treating it is absolutely critical. It's non-negotiable for a safe landfill. Then there's landfill gas. As all the organic stuff in there, food scraps, paper, breaks down without oxygen, it creates gas. It's about half CO2 and half methane, and that methane part is a really big deal. Methane is a super potent greenhouse gas, more than 25 times more powerful than carbon dioxide at trapping heat. So just letting it float off into the atmosphere, that's a major problem for climate change. But here's the cool part. This is where a problem becomes an opportunity. That gas collection system I mentioned, it doesn't just stop the pollution. It captures all that methane. And once you've got it, you can clean it up and use it as fuel to generate electricity. So you're literally turning a harmful pollutant into a valuable resource, from waste to watts. Pretty amazing. So now that we know how all this engineering works, the difference between a controlled landfill and just an open dump is, well, it's night and day. But the sad reality is the standards for this stuff vary wildly across the globe. I mean, look at this comparison. On one side, you've got a clean, modern facility. It's regulated, it's contained, it's even generating power. And on the other, you have an uncontrolled dump site. It's a direct threat to people's health and the environment. This single image really says it all about the global inequality and how we handle our trash. Okay, so it's clear that a properly engineered landfill is a massive step up from an open dump. But let's be real, it's still not the final answer. The ultimate goal, the real future, has to be about making less trash in the first place. And that's where this comes in, the waste management hierarchy. Think of it as our playbook for a smarter future. The most important things are right at the top, reducing and reusing. That should always be our focus. And look where landfilling is, all the way down at the bottom. It's the last resort, what we do when we've run out of all other options. So what do we even mean by source reduction? Well, it's pretty straightforward. It means companies using less material to make stuff. It means designing products that are built to last, that you can actually repair instead of just tossing out. It means all of us reusing things. Simple stuff like a reusable mug for your coffee. But at its core, it just means we all need to consume less. And the impact could be absolutely huge. Get this, the EPA estimates we could cut our waste by half, 50%, just by focusing on source reduction efforts alone. That's incredible. It tells you exactly where we should be putting our energy. So let's bring it all home. We've seen that modern landfills are incredible feats of engineering, designed to safely contain a massive problem. But we've also seen that the best landfill is the one we never have to build. The key takeaway here is that our true goal has to be a circular economy, where we reduce, reuse, and recycle as much as possible. A modern landfill can contain our waste, sure, but a circular economy can help us eliminate it. So the question is, what role will you play? It all starts with the small things, thinking twice before you buy something new and making sure you're separating your waste correctly. That's how we start to move beyond just managing these giant mountains of trash and toward a future where we don't create them in the first place.